What's up, y'all? This is Mike Manzer with another Manzer Faust Productions video. And back here with the final installment in the vinyl tag series. The kind of general vinyl, not really a specific genre in mind. Tag. Finally gonna get this done. And move on to the fun retrospective 2023 stuff still, But got some stuff in the works. Got a couple of stopwatch and listens. Working through a lot of the January package still of the Vinegar Syndrome material. Got some new scores and got a lot to talk about coming up. And stay tuned for those upcoming, retrospective kind of videos for 2023. I know they're coming late. Everybody already has their, top lists in December, but, I'm taking my time. I wanted these to be really good, so make of that what you will. Let's get into this general vinyl tag. Number one, favorite record you purchased in 2023. I got a lot of them, but this one really stands out, and since it's general, kind of music in general, without genre consideration, I went with Space Ritual by Hawkwind. One of my favorite albums of the 70s. Hawkwind, never disappointed in this era. It's the generic. Just amazing artwork. Gotta see if this is, love these fold out ridiculous posters. Yeah, that definitely is not appropriate for YouTube. But yeah, love this record. Was happy to find a copy of it just sitting out there in the open at Archive a few months back. Yeah, fucking amazing. Not much to say about that one. I've said a bunch in a previous video. Number two, the last record you bought in 2023. So, Black Friday, made a big pilgrimage to Red Scroll, as I am one to do. If I can get this out of the sleeve. And got a nice, I believe this is from 2000, reissue of St. Vitus's Die Healing. This is a record from the, I believe, 95, with original singer Scott Riegers on vocals. Really, really doomy and, epic, melancholic stuff on this. Scott Riegers' vocals just as psychotic as ever. Just amazing work from St. Vitus. Got it on a nice, solid gray vinyl. Really nice. And this is put out by Season of Mist. Really, really great stuff. So if you're like really into the early Scott Riegers stuff and you have not picked up this record, I definitely recommend it. It is just as good as the self-titled and Walking Dead and Hollow's Victim EPs. Obviously my preference lies with Wino, period, but these are interesting in their own right. Really great early doom kind of stuff. So, yep. Number 3, band or singer who had released 2 or more albums in the same year. I went with King Crimson from 74. We got Starless and Bible Black. Just an amazing prog run this band was having. This is the second record in this trilogy that started with Lark's Tongue and Aspic, which is one of my all-time favorite albums. King Crimson just was one of the most consistent of these early prog bands. Some of like the greatest music ever recorded was coming out during this period. This is a lot more like kind of wacky and upbeat. You definitely have a transition from Lark's Tongue into the next record I'm going to talk about, into more kind of melancholic and even darkness. This is a lot more just kind of adventurous, I'd say. This has a lot more kind of just, you know, you still got the crazy, like, off-kilter riffs of this era. You still have the amazing vocals from John Wetton. Just an amazing record. And same year, sure enough, they follow up with probably my second favorite of this era, probably third favorite King Crimson record, or second, depending on where Court of the Crimson King falls for me at the time. That is Red. Yeah, I love this fucking record. And this is like more dark, melancholic, kind of like meditative at times. Like Starless, the side B epic, is just like so beautiful. Probably one of the best songs, one of the best compositions they ever had. And another standout on side 1 is One More Red Nightmare. Just the riff on that is so heavy. It's probably one of their heaviest songs, up there with stuff like 21st Century Schizoid Man, some of the heavier stuff on Lark's Tongue. But yeah, this is like one of their best records, and this is definitely like an influence on a lot of heavy music going forward. I remember Kurt Cobain has, I believe, said this is like one of his biggest influences, one of his favorite albums. And it does make sense. This has a lot more of that like proto-grunge feel. And you also have a lot of really great, like, very much that like kind of college rock, but like heavier kind of vibes to this. The loud, soft element is definitely here of later bands like the Pixies and Pavement. Just really great, really amazing band all through. I'd love to do like kind of an overview of this band in a video, but that would be like 3 or 4 videos, to be honest, because it's a very long discography. There's a lot of different eras. I still got a lot I have to pick up, but yeah, Red. Classic era for that band. If you number 4, if you could only listen to music from one decade, which decade would you choose? And I'd probably go 80s. Surprisingly enough, you know, raised on a lot of great like new wave and synth pop kind of stuff. My parents had a lot of that. You know, Talking Heads, B-52s, Tears for Fears, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Simple Minds, a lot of that classic stuff. Blondie. I'm really big into like stuff like Duran Duran, Depeche Mode, the early Ministry stuff. like I have a love for a lot of this like very wacky kind of stuff that was going on in the 80s. You also have, the early years of hardcore. Uh, Obviously, all the stuff that came out in '81. Um, you know, My War by Black Flag. A lot of great hip hop in the '80s as well. Run DMC, Public Enemy, NWA, Beastie Boys, Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Flash, all this kind of crazy stuff. You had, there's some genres that were definitely getting really shitty in the 80s. You got stuff like country, which is just awful in the 80s. Like, it's maybe not as cleaned up that it was in the 90s. And trust me, I don't like any country past, like, the 70s. That was kind of the era that I pay the most attention to. Country in, because you have a lot of that outlaw country stuff and more of the folky kind of stuff going on as well. But yeah, I mean, in the 80s, you also got a lot of great stuff from Tom Waits coming out. That was just like completely next level from what he was doing in the 70s, the more like piano ballady kind of stuff. He was moving into more like kind of abstract, the very Captain Beefheart inspired kind of junk band kind of craziness, like a lot of crazy like found instrument sounds, and just very interesting ways of playing with like production and everything like that. Trying to think what else is like 80s. You had a lot of, like I mentioned, the new wave stuff. There was a lot of interesting kind of prog stuff. That was another genre that was kind of becoming a little bit annoying. For lack of a better term, I really don't like Phil Collins era Genesis. I like a couple of the songs, but as like a general view of that era of that band, not really a fan. I really love like the Discipline era, King Crimson stuff, which was happening a lot during the 80s. A lot more of kind of like a Talking Heads kind of vibe to a lot of that. Bowie's stuff was pretty solid during the 80s. You had Let's Dance and Scary Monsters, records that I don't think hold up as well in like fans' minds. I mean, they're not on the level of the Berlin trilogy or a lot of the earlier 70s stuff that I really love, but I really do love like Let's Dance. I have a nostalgia for that as well. That was definitely one in my youth that was playing throughout the house a lot. You had a lot of great like metal happening. You got the introductions of thrash. Just you got a lot of like glam. Some of it's okay. Early on in the 80s, some of that's much better. I do like Skid Row a lot. You had a lot of that happening. Thrash was turning into death metal later on. You had grindcore. The first few records of Power Violence were happening in the late 80s. Just a crazy decade. A lot of crazy stuff happening. A lot of interesting sounds. Hardcore early on was more like kind of dirty and visceral and stuff. You saw that evolve into the more kind of East Coast youth crew kind of stuff. You had metal coming into that as well with Age of Quarrel by the Cro-Mags, Killing Time. A lot of that New York hardcore stuff was really big. A lot of cool bands like Corrosion of Conformity and DRI doing interesting stuff with metal as well. So yeah, just insane amount of stuff coming out in the 80s. And the 90s would come pretty close because you have a lot of interesting things becoming popular. Butthole Surfers and like that big hit with Pepper. Even though I really do prefer their 80s material. Definitely like looking back at that band, Locust Abortion Technician is definitely an important album. You had a lot of noise rock in the 80s, and a lot of that stuff turned into what it would be in the 90s, where it got a much more bigger lens on it with bands like Unsane and Helmet, a lot of these amphetamine reptile bands started becoming much bigger. Um, just a lot of stuff going on in the 80s. Did go into the 90s, you know, the stoner metal kind of boom, a lot of that desert rock stuff. But you look at like the 80s, it was like so much of this was like just being born. It was in its most raw and kind of like primitive elements of these genres, and that's really when I think it's like the best. It's just it's taking more chances. It's more experimental. You have much more interesting things coming out of it. And I mentioned so many genres. There's just so much going on in the 80s that is just like eye opening and kind of expansive. Um, just really important to me. So yeah, I'd probably go 80s. There's some 70s stuff, but I feel like consistency, like the 80s, like every year was just hundreds of killer records. So yeah. Number 5, show a record by a band or singer from Manchester. And this is pretty obvious. Wanted to go with a lesser obvious choice from this band, but anything by this band would be pretty obvious for the Manchester pick. I went with Joy Division's Closer. This is the final record. I believe it was released like right after singer Ian Curtis had killed himself. This is an original on Factory. I got really lucky picking this thing up. Love Joy Division, and this is probably my favorite. I do love the classic Unknown Pleasures, but man, this is just one of the most intense emotional listens you will ever have. Like this, like I said, he died like right before this came out, I believe, probably like around the same time or something. You can feel it in this record. There is so much like pain and kind of numb feeling and just lost kind of feeling in this record. So many of these songs are just like total gut punches. 24 Hours, really insanely heavy song. The first two songs on this are just complete post-punk definitive anthems. Atrocity Exhibition and Isolation, and like these are two of the greatest songs ever written. Ian Curtis's voice has definitely taken a step up from the Unknown Pleasures. It's a lot more detached, a lot more kind of bassy. There's a lot more emotional range to it, a lot more vulnerable feeling to it. It's just like, it feels a lot more real. It feels a lot more direct. Just painful fucking record. Heart and Soul, such a beautiful kind of synth melody to that. The driving bass of this, a lot of these songs just are like, they got the feeling of like an upbeat kind of danceable, but then you actually listen to like his vocal delivery, the lyrics, everything like that, and you have this like kind of, it's almost like a masking quality that is kind of fully masked on a lot, where he's just trying to hide a lot of this pain. And then there's certain songs like The Eternal that just go full on, just assault you with the emotions and the sadness of this man who is pretty much on the brink of ending it all. And it's unfortunate. Luckily, we have New Order coming out right after, which I have a lot of love for that band as well. Totally different direction. But yeah, and obviously we have Still, that was released quite a bit after this, which I think is, I can't remember where that album falls. Maybe they were working on some of it during the recording of this. I don't really know the backstory of Still. That'd be an interesting kind of deep dive for me to go into pretty soon. once I got a copy of it, because I got kind of lucky finding both of these original. But yeah, just such an amazing record. Definitely a big influence on my life as well. My art, music, everything like that. It's just got all the elements of this early post-punk Manchester kind of sound that I adore. So, yeah. Joy Division. Like I said, pretty obvious, but can't go wrong. Number 6, which band or singer did you listen to the most in 2023? Shockingly, Duran Duran. And this is actually one I picked up recently. The 7 and the Ragged Tiger. This is probably my second favorite by them. I really love the self-titled debut. I think that's like probably their most consistent record. But this thing slaps. There's a lot of great classics on here. Reflex and New Moon on Monday, which were both singles, really powerful songs. The Reflex is one of my favorite Duran Duran songs. It's such a kind of definitive song for the band. A lot of people who aren't as familiar with this band will definitely recognize this song. It's definitely like one of the catchiest choruses they ever did. Great synth, epic synth lines in it and everything like that. Looking for Cracks in the Pavement is a really great kind of more laid back, kind of melancholic kind of sound. Crime and Passion is just like driving, like just pounding, but very like kind of like intimidatingly, sort of dark feeling kind of delivery in the vocals and everything. It's just such a banger of a song. Unity of the Snake, kind of the same feel, and that I believe that was also a single at the time. Just like very great stuff. And the Seventh Stranger, the ending song, is really, really great. Just such a again, kind of an epic melancholic kind of sound, but man, it is such a beautiful melody to that whole song. And yeah, I don't know what it was about Duran Duran that I just kept coming back to this year. I've been on kind of like a new wave synth pop crazy kind of kick. There's a lot of stuff that will come up in this video that kind of illustrates that further. A lot of Depeche Mode this year as well. I've been getting back into that band. I got to start getting their LPs. I don't really see that stuff a lot, like OG pressing, so I do want to start looking for a lot of that. A lot of the later Killing Joke stuff, because I've always loved the self-titled debut, but haven't really shockingly dove into a lot of the stuff like Nighttime and a lot of the 80s stuff that's a little bit more like kind of new wavy synth poppy, but I do like a lot of it, and I feel like that's another band that was really on my playlist a lot this year. But somehow, man, Duran Duran just kept going back to it. A lot of this album, and like I said, the debut. A lot of Rio is another really good one. And yeah, these 3 albums just constantly in rotation for me. They're just really solid. I gotta get the other 2 still, but yeah, really happy to have this. Okay, number 7. We are showing 7 7-inch records, so I'm gonna try to be quick about this, but mostly punk stuff because that's everything that I have like sleeves for, pretty much. Wanted to start off with the Exploited Dead Cities. This is one of my favorite Exploited singles. You got like the classic fast, aggressive, just brutal Exploited sound. This classic punk rock, sped up to like its limits. This is before they were going into more like Let's Start a War or horror epics kind of sound, where it's a lot more inspired by like thrash metal Later on, you even had Beat the Bastards, which had a very much a crossover kind of sound, uh, which, you know, I do prefer that sound, but this early, like, kind of Secret Records, I'll show that off because this is a nice OG copy on Secret. It's just real simple, anthemic, sing-along kind of stuff. Dead Cities, probably the poster child of the exploited thing of having that song, which is just the chorus is just the song title over and over again. And that's pretty much the only part of the song you can actually understand what the fuck Waddy's saying. Like, extremely, like, thick Scottish accent on this guy. It's almost like a meme. But yeah, I really do love this record. It's ripping. The side B is Hitler's in the Charts again. Yeah. Definitely a band that has its controversies and its alliances. Not great. Not defending it, but man, do they know how to make some real catchy but like visceral fucking punk rock in this era, the UK 82 stuff. This is one of those bands that definitely goes to the top of the class for sure. Yeah, can't beat that record for classic exploited stuff. Next up, the Spazz self-titled. This is the first Spazz 7-inch. And you could tell by those song lengths, this is some of the best power violence out there. Some of the fastest, most like abrasive stuff. Definitely not my favorite Spazz material, but man, this is a great freaking album put out by Slap-A-Ham, Chris Dodge's label, and the three guys in this band are just like powerhouses under themselves. Obviously, Max Ward, the drummer, will go on to found 625 Thrashcore, releasing just endless amounts of really great music, of fastcore, hardcore, power violence, really weird sludge and everything like that. Like, you also got, I can never remember his name, but the guitarist, I can't believe I'm forgetting fuckers' names right now, but he, Dan Lactose, he ended up becoming kind of like a hip-hop DJ. He's also got a really great group called Hard Foul. I don't think they've done anything in the last few years, but I remember they had a 7-inch a few years ago that was just fantastic. Kind of going back to the classic hardcore kind of sound. But yeah, Spazz, just consistent as fuck throughout the 90s. Releasing some of the best power violence stuff. Their LPs are utterly classic. I love La Revancha. That's probably one of my favorite power violence LPs of all time. The 7-inches are just as crucial. Some of their like goofiest stuff is on these, but some of like their best songs. I love the song Uniform, Pressure, and Force Fed on this. Precision Fastening is really good as well. And it's over within like 5 minutes. So definitely an in and out kind of record. Love Spazz. This is one of their best. All right, number 3 on the 7.7-inches. We got another classic, probably from the same package lot back in the day that I got the Exploited in. Another classic UK 82 band. This is Abrasive Wheels with Vicious Circle. This is probably my favorite Abrasive Wheels material. I do love the LP, but man, this has Voice of Youth and Attack on it, which are great songs, and then the A-side, Vicious Circle, just such a great anthem of UK 82 goodness. Such a great fucking 7-inch. Put out by one of the other heavy hitters of the UK 82 label wars. This is put out by Riot City. The classic labels on that. And just like with stuff like Secret and the other label No Future, just so much important. UK82, early like kind of hardcore, yeah, at least in like the UK sense of the word. Like really great stuff coming out on this label always. And yeah, dude, just incredibly catchy, incredibly anthemic, incredibly abrasive steel. Still, yeah, abrasive wheels. Going over to Japan, band that's influenced by Descendant, Exploited, I'm fucking up, Exploited and Abrasive Wheels. Going over to Japan, more of like an oi kind of sound. Yeah, class of '94 by the Discocks. Really do love this 7-inch. Discocks are just always fun, always a good time. This is put out by Knockout Records. I love this band, really great. If they could put out the second LP, it's got a really long title, can't remember, on vinyl. It's never been on vinyl from what I've seen, only on CD, and I don't have any interest in getting the CD, but that record is really great, more of like a Discharge kind of raw punk kind of sound to it. But man, this is just a classic, you know, anthemic, class of '94. Have You Got 10p, the classic ejected cover on this, and East End Kids, just fun, you know, as they say on their LP, have your fun tonight. Just so much fun, just pogo, golden pogo, I guess. You know, it's like, this is probably some of that best like example of that pogo punk kind of stuff that was happening in the early '90s. Bands like Tom and the Boot Boys and Pogo Machine, and a lot of these bands happening at the time in Asia, mostly Japan and I believe South Korea. You had the stuff like the Spiky Brats. But man, this is like one of the best to do it. And this is like, these guys were actually great musicians and took this shit seriously. So yeah, awesome. Love the Discocks. And you know, that was the one band I felt like a lot of the respect from the American acts, a lot of the street punk stuff happening at the time. They all really loved the Discocks. So you can hear a lot of that classic early '90s sort of punk core. It's more so like the Virus and maybe early Unseen, bands like that. Maybe not as crazy as some of the early Unseen stuff, but really good. Up next, some Connecticut stuff. A little bit of a foreshadowing for stuff to come. We got Brutally Familiar, Ashamed of Being White EP, put out by Eugene Records. Classic stuff. Ashamed to Be White is probably one of the best Brutally Familiar tracks. Real direct and just visceral fucking song. Yawn's kind of fun. It's not one of my favorites. They always kind of have a lot of weird kind of tracks on these records. And Broken Bones, I believe, is a cover of the Freeze. But man, Ashamed to Be White is such like a good fucking song. You got this amazing artwork on the cover as well, and still relevant as fuck. We got a lot of this kind of problems going on right now, and that's about as far with that as I'm gonna go, because again, I'm not trying to get political on this channel very often. It just happens by accident sometimes. But yeah, Brutally Familiar. If you love like The Pissed and Broken and those classic early '90s Connecticut punk bands, definitely check out Brutally Familiar. I feel like they get a lot of respect in Connecticut, but outside of Connecticut, they're not as well known. They ended up reforming later on as M13. Really great band, and they play quite a few of the Brutally Familiar stuff in their set. But yeah, if you have not checked this out, and you love those other bands that I mentioned, this is definitely like an amazing band. Um, yeah. Okay, so number 6 in this 7 inches, and this is probably making this video exponentially longer. But yeah, I wanted to go for some more obscure kind of going with the Spazz record, but this is coming from Australia, and I got this in a big lot back in the day with like 20 records. It was real cheap, and a lot of stuff I've never even heard of. So those are usually the most fun. And this is White Male Dumbinance with Forced Vengeance. White Male Dominance, obviously named after the classic BGK record. This is just fast, abrasive, very influenced by stuff like Infest, Despise You, No Comment. Just no fucks given, classic style power violence with a little bit of Youth Crew kind of energy to it. A lot of great like kung fu samples on Force Vengeance, the horrific stench of war. You got some great like Noam Chomsky samples on that, which is pretty cool. Just simple lyrics, just abrasive, antisocial kind of vibes, and yeah, real. And you got like a great kind of doomy, slow outro track. The thing with the Power Violence records is they always put the longest track at the end of the album, just this like kind of epic, doomy, sludgy closer, and this definitely delivers on that as well. I'd check this band out if you love stuff like Infest and some of the later bands that came up during the early 2000s, stuff like Weekend Nachos. And you got them coming from Melbourne, Australia, which you have another great band from that era doing stuff in that part of the world called Extortion. And this band definitely shares a lot of that kind of sound as well. So yeah, White Male Dominance, classic, kind of underheard Australian power and violence. And last on this list of 7 inches went with another classic, Connecticut. But you can kind of look at this as a New York thing as well because of who they had on drums. This is Violent Children, the self-titled 7-inch. This is original United Nutmeg Records #1. C2 Hardcore. And on drums, you got Mr. Ray Capo, who would later, and probably like a couple months later, release the first Youth of Today record, Can't Close My Eyes, which is a classic of Youth Crew and positive hardcore, the later stuff influenced by bands like Uniform Choice and Minor Threat, 7 Seconds. This is a lot more of like a skate punk, thrashy, kind of in the vein of the faster bands coming out of the mid-'80s, like Neon Christ, Coro, much more of like I said, like a skater, a little bit of like Suicidal Tendencies first album as well. Really love this 7-inch. Just really fun, crazy early hardcore from Connecticut. All right, and that is that 7-inch section. So, moving on. Who's coming to your party? Choose 4 music-related people to come to an imaginary dinner party, past or present, who you would like to invite. I kind of just threw together a bunch of like interesting kind of poet and like, kind of characters within music. Went with Tom Waits. Would always love to hear him like kind of, be at a party just telling stories and jokes. And I love his like between song banter he does on some of his live material. Just really, really fun. If you've never seen the concert film Big Time, definitely go check that out, because like his banter between songs is just legendary. Just really great performer and storyteller. Um, so that would be great to have him there. Peter Tosh, I just thought it'd be funny to have like a guy. I love Peter Tosh as like kind of like an icon within reggae music, kind of like overshadowed by his bandmate, fucking Bob Marley, unfortunately. But I feel like when he went solo, was doing albums like Human Rights and Legalize It and things like this, he was definitely really forward thinking with the whole reggae thing, much more than Bob Marley, who was kind of reduced to making like kind of pop hits at the time. Those are great albums as well, Exodus, some of the later stuff, but man, it never really touched the level that the Wailers did with, uh, Peter Tosh writing a lot of stuff as well. Obviously, Catch a Fire is one of the greatest albums ever recorded. And I just feel like it would be interesting for him being at the party. He'd be more of like the chill back, like philosophical kind of guy. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of came to me. And I don't smoke weed anymore, so that's not really an factor, but maybe. I don't know. Seems like a chill guy. Number 3, Leonard Cohen. I thought it'd be cool. His like poetry and kind of like, definitely his voice was the first thing that really got me into Leonard Cohen as a young kid and probably a teenager. When I was getting into a lot of like that, like kind of blue-eyed soul stuff, like Van Morrison and the Righteous Brothers, that kind of big sound. Leonard Cohen was always there as like kind of the dark end of that, and almost like a Roy Orbison kind of figure, who I have always loved as well. And just having him kind of play off of the other 3 people at this party. I also picked for number 4 Patti Smith. I feel like just the 4 of them would be a lot of interesting conversations. The mood would definitely be lively, but very reflective and very. It just seemed like an interesting group of people to spend time with. Patti Smith bringing that intensity to it. Kind of a strong kind of poet and poetry she has in her music. Definitely like an overwhelming personality. But yeah, I don't know. Just kind of threw this together. I'm not really one of these guys that really likes doing the whole like, if you're at a party, like this question kind of annoys me, but that's the best I can do. Those 4 in a room would definitely make some interesting conversations for sure. Number 9, we lost them. Choose one musician who passed away in 2023, and yeah, this is definitely a bummer. We lost Robbie Robertson of the band, so I went with music from Big Pink, one of my favorite records of this era. Band, obviously famous for backing Bob Dylan in the 60s, and went off on their own, recorded some of like the best early 70s, late 60s music. Obviously, if you've heard the Easy Rider soundtrack, The Wait, such an amazing song. It was between this and the self-titled second record. I went with this because it's just so important. I love the band, and Robbie Robertson, man, just such an important figure. Finally watched Carney last year and thought that was just an amazing film, and that was he was a big part of that film. And just as a figure, I feel like it's a real bummer. We lost Levon Helm a few years ago as well. Definitely love Levon Helm in this group, but I feel like they all kind of played off each other very well. Um, and yeah, I don't really have much to say, but love the band, and loved Robbie Robertson throughout the years. So big loss with him, but yeah, definitely check out the music. And yeah, one of the best concert films of all time we got with The Last Waltz. So imagine you could only listen to music from one country. Which country would you choose? I went with England. I always really talk up Japan, Finland, probably Germany. Switzerland's also pretty interesting, but really, England just had everything going on at one time or another. Great like new wave coming out of there, like you know, you name like a great British new wave band. I mentioned Joy Division before. A lot of that Manchester kind of sound, amazing stuff. You have the legends coming out of the British Invasion era, the Who, Rolling Stones, Van Morrison, even though that's more Ireland. Still, like general UK. Just so much great stuff throughout the years. You go into the 80s with a lot of the UK 82 kind of stuff. Yeah, just England. It just seems to have the most happening at all times. What else can you say about that? Number 11. Name 3 vinyl community channels you discovered in 2023, and links will be in the description for this part of the video. Go check out these channels. They are doing amazing work. First up is No Solution. We kind of got started around the same time I did. Doing a lot of great, kind of more obscure kind of music deep dives, a lot of great collection updates. Really like his stuff. A lot of variety to the type of music that he talks about as well. Really love his stuff. Depeche Commode. I haven't checked this guy out in a minute, but I really liked his live streams he would do for a while, having a lot of really cool. I think he did one that was all about like crazy gore grind records and like intense like weird grindcore kind of stuff. Really, really fun live streams. Really great sense of humor on the guy. Yeah, really fun to listen to him talk and stuff. So yeah, I really like his stuff. And number 3 is Heavy Art Talk, which is really cool. I forget the guy's name, but he's done a lot of great live streams and videos kind of talking about like heavy metal art and like cover art and different artists and all this kind of stuff, which is really really inspiring to me, because I don't really know a lot about these artists, but I know their work. These are albums that I've loved for years. So hearing kind of this kind of overview of a lot of their work from like an art perspective, and their kind of histories and stuff, very cool. So like I said, all these channels are linked down in the description. If you're interested, definitely go check them out. Definitely subscribe. Definitely watch their stuff, because they are making awesome content within the vinyl community. All right. Number 12, show a record you bought when you were a teenager. More punk rock. This is more in the crust anarcho kind of camp. It's from Scold Records, which like released a lot of stuff along with like Profane Existence. But yeah, Contravene, A Call to Arms, classic Portland anarcho crust kind of stuff from the late 90s. Love this band. If you're into stuff like Detestation, a lot of the other stuff coming out on Scold and Profane Existence at the time, Havoc Records, all those kind of things. Great fucking record. I really love Desperation. The Gift of Life is just an amazing thrasher. A lot of themes of like exploitation. Desperation talks about the exploitation of women through advertising, kind of society, beauty, beauty standards, and everything like that. Very powerful song. Common Ground, just a great kind of come together, unite, and fight this brutal system that we're in. And Darkness, kind of the same feeling. Blue by Day, White by Night, probably one of the most powerful anti-cop songs I've ever heard. I just adore that song. Very dark, very epic song, but definitely one of the best. So, yeah, really great dual singer trade-off kind of parts to this. Just the riffs are insane, very metal, very epic. A little bit of power metal vibes to them, but definitely crust and like anarcho punk laden. Classic kind of stuff. I feel like all those kind of records from the 90s, definitely check out Controversy. Band that was definitely bigger when I was getting into this kind of stuff, but I don't hear a lot about nowadays. So. Number 13, Show a Funk or Soul record. I picked this one up this year as well. This is Brothers Johnson with Right on Time. This is just classic soul. You got Strawberry Letter 23, which is famous for being sampled a ton throughout the years, and also being central to the soundtrack of Jackie Brown, one of my favorite Tarantino movies. But yeah, there's some great songs on here. Free Yourself, Be Yourself, Right on Time, Brother Man. Really fun stuff. Love this record. Got it real cheap. If you love soul records, you should already know this. Great. All right, number 14, show a record you think everyone has, and show a record you think nobody has. At least in my circles, one record I always see on the racks is this one, Electric Warrior by T-Rex, and for good reason. This is fucking amazing 70s glam. Probably one of the most famous T-Rex albums. Like Monolith on this record is like one of my all-time favorite songs. I love Monolith. It's just such a great melody. The guitar work on it is just so good. I love this album. Cosmic Dancer, obviously, such an important, like, such an amazing song. Lean Woman Blues. You got the big Bang a Gong, Get It On song, which is still played on classic rock radio endlessly. Just a classic record. Just everybody knows it. And then one that I think nobody has, except for 12 other people, is the test pressing of Busted's Hell Is Other People EP. If you look closely, I think that's me on this cover. This is a shot at this old kind of closet venue we had in New London at the time, down up the street from where the LNG was, called the Eclectic Room. Eclectic Wear is the kind of a closet in back of this Rastafarian guy's like clothing line, streetwear kind of thing. This nice mashed up vinyl. The actual release of this had like 4 or 5 different covers. I have like 3 of them, and I have this. Just really great. I think this is like 2010. A lot of big names in this band. You had Brett, who sang for the Killboys on vocals. He would end up forming a really great hardcore band later on called Laughing Stock. Really great Boston hardcore from that. You had Jim Chaos from Copyright Chaos. I believe he was in Absum at one point. I might be wrong. He was in Long Drop. He's playing a lot of really great stuff. He was in Drug Shock later on as well. So, yeah. Just really saw Aaron from Drug Shock also played in Busted on bass. Just really great fucking band. Kind of forgotten if you weren't there at the time, but man, this was some great stuff. Just real, standard hardcore. Great riffs. Had a lot of the Meriden Wallingford sound that was happening at the time from like around 2008, I'd say, until like 2014 or something. A lot of these bands were coming out. But I really like this band. Real great live kind of energy. Yeah. Some solid punk rock of its era. And yeah, not a lot of people have the actual record. Definitely not a lot of people have the test press. So, hell yeah. Number 15, She's Great, a record by a female artist you bought in 2023. I could go with a lot of like Blondie this year and stuff, but yeah, I thought I'd show off the guiltiest of guilty pleasures, even though I hate that term with a passion. You got True Blue by Madonna. I adore this record, so go fuck yourself. Open Your Heart, Papa Don't Preach, True Blue, La Bonita. Even some of like the more like cheesier songs. White Heat was really fun. Jimmy Jimmy ending is just like a goofy, very synthy, cheesy, the Velveeta element of that, but it's fun, I love this record. I love a lot of that, like this era of Madonna. I can get down with a lot of Madonna stuff, like Ray of Light. I really like a lot of the stuff that was coming out during that era. Like a Prayer is a classic album as well. But yeah, this is just fun, positive, upbeat 80s kind of stuff, and love her voice on this. So yeah, probably the most like cringy choice on this, but yeah, love this album. Trying to speed it up, so because I spent a lot of time on a few sections of this. Number 16, the favorite video you posted on your channel in 2023, and favorite video you watched on the VC in 2023. And I could have picked a lot of stuff. I have a lot of videos that I really liked throughout this first year, but really the one that I kind of go to the most, that was my personal favorite, has no views, so I try to get people to go watch this as much as I can, is when Manzer met vinyl, a journey back 21 years, where I talk about what really got me into buying a lot of vinyl and my kind of introduction to this. Started going to shows. This is around 2002 and 2003. Just like such an important time in finding myself and my musical tastes. If you get the chance, go back and watch that video. And like I said, it doesn't have a lot of views, and it's definitely the most personal and introspective kind of video that I've done. So yeah, I'd like that to get some more views if possible. Like I said, with the previous entries, all these links are down in the description, along with my favorite VC video. And going back to Heavy Metallurgy, man, they are just killing it week after week with great live streams. Alan and Marty just keep putting out amazing stuff on their channel. The Scott Burns Talks Florida Death Metal video, just having Scott Burns in the studio or in the stream, talking about all these classic death metal and, you know, early grindcore and even some thrash metal that he worked on throughout the years. Just so much iconic work coming out of him and More Sound Studios in the early 90s. Just awesome. Hearing him talk about all these records was really great. Um, just amazing live stream. So go and watch that if you have not yet. And like I keep saying, support Heavy Metallurgy. They're doing some like the best VC content out there. Amazing live streams. And go check out Alan's own channel. Let's Talk Metal. Really great stuff on there. All right, number 17. Show a record you describe as a 90s classic. And how could I not go for this? My favorite hip-hop album of all time. Enter the Wu-Tang, the 36 Chambers. Yep. Not much I need to say about this, and I feel like I've talked about it in the past. Just an amazing collection of songs on this. Bring the Ruckus, Shame, Can It All Be So Simple, Protect Your Neck, Cream. So much, like, if you know hip-hop in the 90s, you know this record, and this is just... So many great careers were launched by this record. You got RZA on beats, is just like doing some of his best stuff. Real raw, dirty, like synth sounds throughout this. These kind of like mixtures of like horror soundtrack and kung fu soundtrack kind of vibes. Everyone's on their A game. Some of the best bars from Old Dirty Bastard, Jizza, Ghostface. The song Method Man is probably like his best stuff. Really fun vibes on a lot of this. Real intimidating vibes on a lot of this. Just real great. Really love Wu-Tang. And it all starts here. Number 18. If you could walk into the cover, look through your collection and choose a record cover you'd like to be a part of. Not really a lot of that. You know, everything I got is mostly nuclear obliteration and weird Holocaust photos, unfortunately. So, but wanted to go with another classic kind of soul, 70s soul record. A little bit of a early funk record as well. That is World is the Ghetto. This just looks like a real cool kind of block party situation right here. I like this artwork a lot. I love War too. This is a band that my parents are huge into, so I heard them a lot as a kid. This is probably my favorite record of theirs. Cisco Kid, Beatles in the Bog, Where Was You At, World is a Ghetto, this epic kind of 10 plus minute like ballady kind of, it's just amazing soul music. Yeah, I can't go wrong with War. Awesome cover as well. It's like a greatest hits. Show a record you're familiar with that it feels like so familiar with that it feels like a greatest hits. And this artist, I could have picked like 3 other records from that same time period. But this is one that I was listening to a ton at one point in my life. Like every morning I'd wake up and spin this record because it's just one song after another are just so amazingly beautiful and powerful and anthemic. And I went with Neil Young, After the Gold Rush. And my personal favorite Neil Young is probably this one or Harvest or even Tonight's the Night. These 3 albums are just so fucking great that I just keep going back to them constantly. I love these songs. Tell Me Why, After the Gold Rush is such like a powerful like kind of end of the 60s kind of lament of a song. Just so fucking beautiful. There was a band playing in my head and I felt like getting high. Such a great line. Southern Man, one of the most powerful anti-racist songs of all time. Uh, you know, you got some shorter, kind of more like uh, pastoral kind of novelty songs. Till the Morning Comes, the album closer, Cripple Creek Ferry, just kind of playful, kind of bouncy tracks. I love Old Lonesome Me. Don't Let It Bring You Down. Probably one of my favorite Neil Young songs of all time. When You Dance, I Can Really Love. Just such a like dark but beautiful song, which he's always been the best at writing. Like Cowgirl in the Sand, those kind of just immense kind of songs. A lot of the stuff off of Comes a Time, or Time Slips Away, Tonight's the Night. All these records just have so much like beautiful, like painful tracks. Just yeah, I love this album. And this, like I said before, like was just constantly in rotation for me for like a year. Just every morning had to listen to it. So yeah, got that iconic gatefold as well. I love that. And finally, this is definitely longer than the others. Maybe not. Show an album that was released in 1974. And funny enough, I already showed those King Crimson records, but this is another one I keep going back to like crazy. And it's not his most famous, especially of this era, and I feel like that's kind of a mistake, because this is definitely like has the most variety throughout it. This is Mingus Moves. I love Charles Mingus, one of the best bass players in the history of jazz music. Like right from the beginning, you got the slow build up of canon coming in with Ronald Hampton's trumpet. This real, well, no, actually, George Adams' tenor sax. It kind of starts off like this real melancholic. You got the bass coming in. You got this groove on this song that just builds, and it's just so like encompassing, and like it's just such like back when I was actually like a pot smoker, I'd throw this on, and this would be like my kind of nightcap, just sit back and chill kind of record. It just has such a cool kind of vibe to it. Opus 4, the second track, definitely picks things up a bit. Has a more of that like kind of traditional, a little bit of avant-garde as well, with the kind of crazy trumpet sounds at the beginning. But yeah, just really great, like chilled out, kind of laid back listen. Not as chaotic as some of his more classic material, but it's definitely one of my favorite Mingus, Charles Mingus records. Just so fucking great. Mingus Moves. And yeah, that will about do it for this video. So I'm finally done with these vinyl tags. I love making these, but it's time to move on to bigger and better things throughout the year. So yeah, as I said in the beginning of the video, look out for all of the retrospective videos. I'm definitely going to do really soon a favorite vintage records that I picked up, retro throwback records, original pressings, a lot of stuff I've been after for a real long time. Some cool represses as well in there. So that video is coming real soon. And then down the line, the others, the favorite reissues and favorite albums of 2023. Like I've been saying, I got a lot more holes to still fill up. So hopefully by the end of February or even into March, I'll have those two videos up as well. Those are going to be long, so prepare yourselves. But yeah, what'd you think of this video? Did you disagree with any of my choices, even though these are very personal? And do you have your own list. If you don't want to make a video, but you're just still down there in the comments, post your list, what you would do for these choices. Definitely jump into that description and check out some of the channels and other videos that I had mentioned. You know, like and subscribe if you have not yet. If you want to find me on social media, I am the Hordes of Manzerfaust on Instagram. And yeah, that'll about do it. So yeah, this is Mike Manzer with another Manzerfaust Productions video. And stay fucking metal.